Then a new battle in Israel. The ceasefire led to quiet on the southern border, but also resulted in a political fallout and fresh challenges for Netanyahu. Here's that report, followed by an analysis with our CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl in our studio. Israel's Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman announced his resignation over the Israeli-Hamas ceasefire.
The ceasefire yesterday, combined with a long-term deal with Hamas, is a surrender to terrorism. There's no other definition, no other meaning, but surrender to terrorism.
Lieberman's party will now move to the opposition. That gives Netanyahu a very slim majority, which could bring about the collapse of the government and force early elections. Lieberman was also upset by an earlier decision allowing Qatar to give $15 million to Hamas. Before Lieberman's resignation, Netanyahu said he's looking at the bigger security picture for Israel, but can't share it publicly.
Our enemies begged for a ceasefire, and they know well why. I cannot detail our plans for the future. We will dictate the times and circumstances that are right for Israel and are right for the security of our people.
Hamas and other terror groups launched about 460 rockets at Israel over a 24-hour period earlier this week. Israel responded with at least 150 airstrikes on military targets in Gaza. Israelis and Gazans had different reactions to the ceasefire. Gazans mounted a huge victory rally in the streets near the former Hamas TV station that Israel bombed. Israelis in the south were furious over what they say is treatment like second-class citizens. For now, Netanyahu remains in power, but the next weeks and months will tell whether the tense calm in the south and the shaky government in Jerusalem will hold. Julie, it has been a wild ride here in Israel and on the Gaza border in the last week. We've gone from a possible war to ceasefire, now political turmoil. We talked in our report about a shaky government. What's next for Israel politically?
Well, it's likely that Israel will go to new elections. What's been interesting about this is usually your opposition brings you down, but this time it's people that are even further right than Netanyahu who are really complaining. It's his power base. The people in the south are complaining, hey, you're not taking care of us. We voted for you, and here we have rockets coming in on our head.
What does this mean for Netanyahu? Is it possible that he might not be the next prime minister of Israel after these elections?
It is possible. I mean, there's no one with his stature really on the scene, but people are kind of fed up with some of these things. He's also facing a lot of legal troubles. So it's possible.
Talk to us a little bit about the complaint that the residents in the South have. They're saying we're not second-class citizens. Why are they saying that?
Well, there was a comment made by another minister, which he later apologized for, that if the rockets had fallen in Tel Aviv, then we would do something. But the people are saying, look, we're just as important as the people in Tel Aviv. 500 rockets are falling on their head. We're talking about 1 million people that are in rocket range of Hamas rockets and rockets from the Gaza Strip. So they want to see action. They don't want to live in bomb shelters. They don't want to raise their kids that way. The kids are being traumatized. No one knows when the next round is going to happen. Okay, this one's over, but they live in fear all the time.
Yeah. We experienced that for a few hours when we reported on what was happening down in Ashkelon and Sderot, right along the Gaza border. But they are living with this for maybe 15 years or more, so you can understand their grievance. Why is it that the Israeli government is so reluctant to go ahead in a land war and actually go into Gaza and try to defeat them militarily?
Well, the idea is if they go in, who's going to take over? If they get rid of Hamas, who will take over? Israel doesn't want to be in charge of the Gaza Strip. Israel does not want to rule over 1 million plus Palestinians down there. And who will come next? Is it going to be an ISIS-type government? It likely would be somebody more radical.
Final question, Julie. Now, the Trump administration is talking about a peace plan, maybe announced after the midterms. Here we are after the midterms now. Could this affect the Trump administration's peace plan with new elections coming up?
I would think so, because Trump and Netanyahu have been very close, and they've been seemingly on the same page. If he gets another government in Israel, who knows if they're going to be on the same page or not. So it could very well affect things.
Yeah, we'll be following that. Fascinating things going on here. Very significant what's happening here in Israel and the entire Middle East. Julie, thanks for your analysis.